Hello and welcome to Inside and Out with Patricia Stark. I am Patricia Stark, joined as always by my co-pilot, Lynn Cimetti. Hello, Lynn.
Good morning, Patricia.
Well, today our topic is persistence and confidence inside and out. We're going to be talking about how important persistence is when it comes to either reaching our goals or doing something that we didn't think was possible or that we're challenged by or overcoming a fear or an obstacle or whatever it may be. I think that persistence really is something that can help us grow our confidence simply by being tenacious and not giving up. And today we're doing a little bit of a reality show. It's going to be the reality show of me confessing to you that I was a very late bloomer. How about you, Lynn?
I would say it probably took me a while. I'm still trying to figure it out.
We're still blooming.
You know what? I think that's part of it as well, is that, we all think that, at some point you should have it.
Right.
And no, you need to be persistent and stay on it and keep working towards improvement.
Yeah, I think that the term late bloomer is certainly applicable when we're talking about how we grew up and the challenges that we went through and trying to find confidence, trying to like ourselves, trying to find our own voice and things like that. But I think that we should also look at ourselves as blooming throughout life and constantly trying to learn and get better and find other ways to grow our garden and add to it and really, again, always be in a constant state of somehow blooming. And I think that we can do that by being persistent about always wanting to get better. Every day we're either building something up or breaking it down, right?
Yes.
So I think to focus on always trying to find something, one aspect of our life even, that could always be built upon and keep building on.
I think that, that's a very true statement. And also it can be the sound of it may sound overwhelming, but I think also the part of that, to me, that's exciting is that you can always change. You can always get better at something. You can always pick something up that you've never tried and take a crack at it. Perhaps an instrument or something that, plant a garden. So
anything that, any time that we're growing and developing and doing things that we didn't think we could do before, those are huge boosts to our confidence. And self-image, especially for young people, I'll work with a lot of schools where I'll come in and I'll give speeches and I'll talk about this whole idea of growing and trying to just get better and know that it's a process for everybody. Nobody has it all together all the time. But self-image is really a tougher thing when you're a kid, especially a teen. I can remember not wanting to walk up to the lunch line by myself. I would have to bring someone with me. I can remember raising my hand in class and feel the sweat pouring down. And obviously with what I do for a living, I loved the idea of using my voice and being a communicator and being a storyteller, but it scared the heck out of me when I was younger. So it actually froze me. It made me feel like I could, as much as I wanted to do it and it seemed exciting, I couldn't bring myself to do it because I didn't have the nerve. I didn't have the confidence. And so much of that now in retrospect comes down to internal communications. On the show we talk about how do we speak to ourselves and how that influences how we speak to the world around us and with our communication skills. And everything, I believe, really starts with how are those wheels turning? What is the song or the dialogue or the story that keeps going in your head and in the back of your head? And who's put it there? Many times the thoughts that we think and the self-talk that we have isn't just from us. It's from somebody in our family or in our past or a teacher or a bully or whoever it may be that at one time said something to us that we carry around like luggage that we believed. And for whatever reason, we chose to believe it, but we can unbelieve it. We don't have to continue to believe those things that affect us negatively. The next thing is, and this is something that people may have heard me talk about on the show before, and I certainly bring it up when I speak with other people, is that one of the greatest gifts that I have been given by doing the coaching and the training that I do, whether it's for public speaking or communication skills or on-camera training, is that I have witnessed firsthand that you name it. I don't care if it's a famous person, a wealthy person, a brilliant entrepreneur, a successful sports figure, who you would know their name, a television host or actor or entertainer or singer, performer. I've had pretty much an example of all of those people in my training room, and many of them have cried and broken down in the room because now they're doing something that they haven't done before. And in addition to that, this is hard for everybody. Everybody has the inner critic, and it's not going to go away. It's something that's in the back of our mind. It's a human thing. It lives there. And usually people, like I just mentioned, that have achieved things in certain areas of their lives have an even stronger inner critic. People would think, oh, they don't have it at all, but they usually have a stronger one. Again, these famous, rich, wealthy, well-known public figures, models even, that you just think, what could they possibly be talking bad to themselves about? It's worse because they have been able to achieve so much in a certain area that they think it's going to automatically apply to every area in their life where they need confidence. And it doesn't. Anytime that you're trying something new or you're putting yourself out there or you're feeling exposed or the spotlight is in you or whatever, this is like uncharted territory if it's a new situation. And you have to allow that there's going to be growing pains. And growing pains are not comfortable. They're awkward, they feel scary, they're terrible, they're frightening, but they make you grow. And they make you be able to get to another point. But to beat yourself up about thinking that you're going to be perfect, everything should translate, if you're good at one thing, you should be good at something else, is really ridiculous because it's not the way the human brain works.
Well, if that was the case, think of all the people out there that would be able to do everything everybody else could. We all have our special gifts. We all have things that come very easily to us and other things that are really difficult.
Absolutely.
And those are the things that, and I think, I'm not sure, but I'm sure you could confirm this, that public speaking is one of the things that most people fear no matter what they've been able to accomplish.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I was recently at a Memorial Day service and I'm there with my father who's going to be 85 this year and he's a veteran, and the speaker introduces this highly decorated colonel, and the biography was like 3 pages long of everything this guy has done. He's traveled the world, he's been in charge of all these things, he's a translator, he speaks all these languages, he's highly decorated, he knows all of these. We were like, and he was only in his 40s, and I'm thinking, man, this guy must have started in his early 20s. Boy, has he been busy the last 25 years. But you'd think he was a rock because of this bio of his. He gets up there, and what's the first thing he says? On the drive up, my wife was talking to me about how not to be nervous and telling me to do this, 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 and this. So I'm thinking, this man was even thinking about, all right, how do I get up there and do a good job and not feel that nervous feeling that everybody deals with when it comes to public speaking. So I think that you just have to say, hey, it's part of the territory, it comes with it, and the more that you do it also, a lot of people who are really good and look good at public speaking have been doing it a long time and have figured out ways to make it work. The first couple times that I did it, the first many times I did it, I was redundant. I was tripping over my words. I was like, first day with a new mouth. I mean, I couldn't do it. And now over so much time, you're desensitized to it. It doesn't bother you as much. It becomes your new comfort zone. It becomes a place where you just feel like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And then you realize how you can make it not be about yourself and actually learn how to enjoy it. So many of the things that we dread and fear, if we just do them and do them even though we feel the fear, on the other end, somewhere down the road, could end up becoming the thing you love to do. And you just can't see that yet. You know what I mean? And we've talked about how 77% of human thought is negative. It's just where we go. I mean, I saw it with my own son, who I try to get up and try to do speaking at a young age so that he doesn't develop this fear. Because we buy into this fear because we hear about it too. We may not have even experienced it, but other people have told us, so we figure, oh, it's going to be there. And it might not have been for us. But he was reading something. I don't want to say he gave a speech, but he was reading some passages and he messed up one word. And he did everything else great. And he sits down and he goes, Mom, I messed up this particular word, whatever it was. And I was like, but you said 250 other words, fine. But it's our tendency as human beings to notice those little things. Like the performers that I deal with, they'll do a performance on Broadway, let's say, and then they'll see the reviews. And they could get 12 great reviews and then one really terrible review, and they'll only focus on the terrible review. And I'm like, no. Go back and look at those other good ones. I mean, negative thoughts handicap your decision-making capability. A negative thinker sees a difficulty in every opportunity, whereas a positive thinker sees an opportunity in every difficulty. I thought that was just a really great thing. And William Shakespeare, this quote that I loved, he said, "Our doubts are traitors, and they make us lose the good that we might often win by fearing to attempt." That means that our doubts keep us from even attempting things that we could have been good at, that we could have been successful at. So when you hear that inner critic, I need you to think of it as a traitor. You have to say, I hear you, but I'm not listening to you. You're a traitor. It has been proven that it is absolutely impossible for the human mind to think a negative thought and a positive thought simultaneously. And this is great information to know, because that means that if you just work to replace the negative thought with a positive one, you can drown it out. But you have to make a conscious effort to do it. But you cannot think them both at the same time. And if there is one thing that we have 100% control of in this world, is our own mind. There's a lot we can't control, but we can absolutely control the thoughts that we think by saying, whoa, I'm not going there. Let it come in, let it go out. But if I know that I have 100% ability to either think a negative thought or a positive thought, and it's truly up to me, I'm going to work hard to replace that negative thought with a positive thought. Norman Vincent Peale said, change your thoughts and you change your world. Now, this, I think, is such a profound statement, because we're all kind of living in the same world, yes, but we're really all kind of making our worlds in our individual lives as we go along. There's a lot of stuff from the beginning of time, good and bad, that happens in the world. There always has been, and there always will be. There's going to be turmoil. There's going to be things that aren't fair. There's going to be war. There's going to be all kind of things. But truly, if you think about it, wherever you're at right now, things could be pretty normal and peaceful and pretty okay and things like that. And whether we're tuning in or tuning out, and certainly we need to be abreast of what's going on in the world, but ultimately we all create our own little worlds, our own little universes every day in our own lives as we go along. And your thoughts have a huge impact on that. David James Lees said, "Be mindful of your self-talk. It's a conversation with the universe." And it's been said that our very first radio transmitter in the world is the human brain. And it's very true, because if you think about it, and my dogs do this, they'll know if I'm going to take them in the car before I've even said a word. They can sense things that my husband and I are thinking about, and you have a dog, and I know that you probably experienced this.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
And they say for a salesman, the sale is made before you even open your mouth. People get the vibe, they get your energy. You have a transmitter. The thoughts you're thinking, don't think that they're just locked in your brain and they're stuck there and that nobody can see them. That through your energy and your vibe and the way that you carry yourself and the way that you expect to receive things or not, or the way that you expect to be treated or not by other people, is absolutely coming many times and stemming from your self-talk. You go into a situation where you're feeling desperate, even though you're not saying anything about it, people can smell it a mile away. It's an energy. Your thoughts create your future. And Earl Nightingale, if you've never listened to his old radio programs, I highly recommend that you download these. He says that a man is what he thinks about all day long. And think about how brilliant that is. We really become, and we really are, what we think about and what we focus on all day long. Because what else is there? Be willing to change our assumptions is another important one. When I do a presentation about the very thing that we're talking about today, I'll put up on my PowerPoint or wherever I am a big white piece of paper, and I'll say, what color is this? And people will say, it's white. And then I quickly switch the screen to a cow, and I'll say, okay, what do cows drink? And everybody, 9 out of 10 people say, milk. And I'll say, really? And they'll say, oh, you got us, or whatever. Cows don't drink milk, but because I said white on the paper, I just had everybody say, what was that color of that paper right before? And they said white, and then I quickly go into the cow, and everybody says milk, because that's how quickly we make assumptions. That's how quickly we judge others and ourselves. And there's a great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink, and it talks all about how in a blink of an eye, we make judgments about other people, about situations, about our safety or not, about our success or not, about our own abilities, without even realizing it. And sometimes it's so subtle and so in the back of our mind that it limits us without us even knowing it's limiting us.
That's very important. That's
huge.
Incredible. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, a mind full of noise cannot think straight. A mind of peace absolutely can. So the next time that you're in a situation where you're feeling stressed out, you're feeling like you can't accomplish something, you can't get up in front of those people, you can't have a voice, you can't win an argument or have that confrontation with another person or whatever it may be, you've got to do whatever it takes to settle your brain for 2 seconds. And I'll use the analogy of 2 glasses of water, one that I stir up, and there's sand at the bottom and the sand's everywhere, almost like a snow globe once you shake it. And the other one, once you let it settle and it's calmed down and you see all the gunk is just sitting at the bottom, but the water is now clear. That's the same thing with your brain. So anytime you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed out or whatever it is, you gotta take an exit. You got to go into the restroom. You got to go someplace alone. You got to go wherever you can get to in your car. I don't care where it is. And you have to calm your brain. You have to take a couple deep breaths. You have to just have quiet and peace of mind for 2 seconds. And think of in our busy lives, how often do we allow ourselves the luxury of even silence? Hardly ever. And, Herman Melville said that silence is the one and only voice of God. And I thought, oh my gosh, think of that. Everybody is so, I want to hear it. I want proof. I want an answer. I want to hear this. I want this. I want that. And sometimes, what if it could be just as simple as being quiet, turning off all the noise and calming your mind and just allowing that sand, that snow globe to just settle? You're going to be in a much better position to tackle anything that's in front of you after you do something like that. And it really doesn't take a lot of time. It can take 30 seconds, even a minute. Years ago, I helped a gentleman named Mark Thornton, who had written a book. He was an author. He wrote a book called Meditation in a New York Minute. And he was some big financial guy, stressed out all the time, didn't want to deal with it anymore, and started going in and teaching these other stressed out guys how to do meditation in a New York Minute, whether it's at the water cooler or in the restroom or at your desk or close the door for a second or whatever it may be. So it's not this, new agey thing where you have to be burning incense in a dark room with your legs crossed in a pretzel. You can do this at different places and it will have a profound effect on how you handle yourself throughout the day. Now, we've all heard about affirmations and how, it's important to talk to yourself and all these other things. And it seems silly, but it's really something that you have to do. Because how are we going to replace that broken record of the negative talk? If we have to replace it with another good habit, if we have to replace it with something positive, we have to have some kind of good talk stockpiled that we can say to ourselves. And it's just the way that children learn. It's all repetition. Repeat, repeat, repeat. So you're going to believe you're going to live what you constantly repeat over in your head. So you got to get some good stuff out there. You got to get a couple of good one-liners that you can say nice things to yourself, about yourself, that you can interject at those times that you need to. Also, we've all heard people say, I just want to find myself. I got to find what I'm supposed to do. I have to find who I'm supposed to be, all these other things. And there's an unknown quote that I've seen many times out there that says, life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. That's why we're here. We're here to create. We're not here to find. We're here to make things happen, to create the life that we want, to create things that help ourselves and that help other people, and create our own path, to be a trailblazer. And it doesn't have to be a life-changing or world-changing thing. It has to be you be your own trailblazer. You be your own person creating your own path. And no matter where it is, you can find places to do this. And rising above discouragement is an enormous thing. In this book by Robert Collier called The Secret of the Ages, if you may recall a few years ago, there was a book called The Secret, and everybody was all, hyped up on The Secret, The Secret, The Secret. And it was a good book because it talked a lot about positive thinking and ways to create that, okay? But it wasn't fulfilling for everybody because people felt like it was too simplistic. And how can just doing this make this, be everything I ever wanted? I'm going to wish for a Ferrari and I'm going to get it. Life doesn't necessarily work that way. But there is a lot to positive thinking and visual imagery. But getting back to discouragement, in Robert Collier's book called The Secret of the Ages, not to be confused with The Secret, had a lot of things in there like The Secret. But one thing he did is he talked about discouragement. And the story that he told was that the devil, Satan, had a garage sale one day. And someone came to the garage sale and he was showing him all the different little items that he had available for purchase. Jealousy, envy, lust, anger, all the, things that are not great stuff that are part of human beings' weaknesses, unfortunately. And the buyer was sitting there looking at all these different items, and he notices this old kind of wooden dusty thing that doesn't look like much. Everything was pretty impressive looking, and this was hidden in the corner, and it was just didn't look like too much of anything. And I always think of in Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail, that the Holy Grail really wasn't the best shiny one, but it was the most impactful one, was the basic one, right? So this is the opposite of that story. So the seller comes up to the devil and says, well, what's that one? And he goes, you've picked my most valuable bit for sale. And he says, why is that? It doesn't look like anything. He goes, that's the point. That is discouragement. It's my best one because no one notices it. It's sneaky. It happens when we don't even know it, and I can use it on so many people because they give up so easily. Oh, I got such goosebumps when I read that. And I was like, man, every time that I feel discouragement, I'm going to say, replace it with encouragement. Do something. Get rid of that because, boy, that's coming from a bad place. Right?
Right, absolutely. That's very powerful.
Right? So
very
discouragement,
powerful.
Exit is this way of driving down the road, or the next exit, faith and confidence. Let's take that exit instead. Another great quote I love, and I don't know who this is by, unfortunately. I'm looking at something and it's not saying who wrote this. God gives every bird its food, but he doesn't throw it into their nest. Isn't that brilliant? Think about that for a second. You know what? It's out there. But you can't be thinking that someone's going to give you that break. Someone's going to do this for you. Someone's going to do that for you. It's out there. But just like that bird, you got to leave the nest. You got to be willing to go out and get it and find it and bring it back. Because think about it. God gives all birds their food, but he doesn't throw it into their nest. If they go out, they can find food in nature, but because they're willing to go out and get out of their comfort zone, they can also find humans that are throwing bread and doing all these things that look like a miracle to them, I'm sure. But it's simply because they went out there, and once you get out and you're willing to show that you're willing to make it on your own, those people who are throwing the bread are more likely to want to feed you and want to throw it your way because they see that you're out there not expecting a handout. I love that.
That's great.
Next is Zig Ziglar, who was this big motivation
Awesome
business guy. I've listened to all his books, read audiobooks, read his books, everything. He talks about motivation, and he talks about how motivation is like bathing. It's only temporary. So you have to do something every day to motivate yourself because it ain't going to last too long. If you go to an event, you listen to this show, you read a book, whatever it is, you got to keep it going. Just like I hope you keep bathing. I hope you keep brushing your teeth. I hope you keep showering. You got to keep finding ways to motivate yourself. And another thing from Norman Vincent Peale, who is my guy. I just love this guy. He's the power of positive thinking, the founder of all of that. And, he wrote a book just based on the coaching and training that he was doing, never realizing that it would affect so many people. A great quote that I would have hanging up on my wall at my office is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 words. If it is to be, it is up to me. And I just think that that's so powerful. And you have to say that anytime. If you want something done, or you need something done, or whatever it's going to be about your life, you have to say, if it is to be, it is up to me. It isn't up to anybody else. It has to be up to you. And Martin Luther King Jr. had a great quote, if you don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. And this is akin to another description, and I don't know who this was attributed to, but it was the same thing where they said, in the dark, you can drive from New York to California just by seeing what's right in front of you with your headlights. You don't need to see the whole way. And these are both wonderful analogies of saying, don't try to look at the whole pie. Don't try to eat the whole elephant, like they say in acting and performing. If someone has to, learn a huge script and it's overwhelming, they'll say, eat the elephant. Just have the foot first, then move on to the ankle, move on to the leg. Learn those bits, and then once you learn them, then you can move on to the other things. And this is life. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just make that first step. just get yourself going and put on those headlights in the dark and just go the distance of deal with what's right in front of you, because the past doesn't exist anymore. The future doesn't exist. All that you can do is take each step each day, deal with what's in front of you. And if you can do that, and you can anybody can get through from this morning till tonight and not get overwhelmed by thinking about what's coming next.
That's great words.
And also Earl Nightingale, another great quote, we all walk in the dark, and each of us must learn to turn on his or her own flashlight. Or light, it says. So it's so true. I mean, we all come into this world alone, and we all leave alone, and we all have to find our way. And we have to all, hopefully, find that light and turn on our own flashlight and find out what that is and know that this is a human thing. This is what everyone has to do. No one is alone and when it comes to that. But persistence is just an important thing, whether it's persistence with a goal or persistence believing in yourself or whatever it may be. Napoleon Hill, who was the author of Think and Grow Rich. Yes. It sounds like it's a book all about just gaining wealth, but it's not. It's riches.
That's a very old book, too.
It's a very old book.
30s?
Yeah, something like that. And it's all about being rich within your thoughts and abundance and love and goodness and yes, maybe finances, but all those things. I mean, the more you have, the more you can help other people. So it's not a bad thing. You know, sometimes I feel like there's a demonizing of wealth out there these days, and there's a lot of good people out there that have worked their butts off making a lot of money and have earned it and want to share it and want to make a difference and create foundations and create things, and they couldn't do this if they minimized themselves and said money is bad. You know, so we have to really, I think, celebrate that what America was founded on, of achievement and getting things that are helping us to not only help and grow our families, but help and grow our communities. And that comes down to success and money and things like that. So, but Napoleon Hill talked about how patience and persistence and perspiration make an unbeatable combination. It's unbeatable. It's absolutely unbeatable. 85% of success comes from how we interact with each other. We've talked about this on the show before, how important our communication and the impact of the words that we are and what we use and how we, put ourselves out there in the world and how people see us. And that vibe that we send out, again, comes from that internal talk. It's so important. It's really letting the world know what our message is, how we're feeling about ourselves, and how we're communicating with other people is just such. We can't put too much emphasis on it. This is something that should be being taught in the schools, should be focused on. There should be classes out there every day. It's just so important to have that. And you got to do your homework. You have to pay attention to detail. You have to be willing to, again, go the extra mile. And you have to earn the right wherever it is, wherever you want to be, whatever you want to do in work and life. If you can honestly say you have earned it, you will always be confident, because confidence comes from that feeling of earning it.
And I think that it's, with all that you've given, all the ideas and all the thoughts, it's not an easy thing to do. But if you just take it, as you said, in little pieces at a time, one day at a time, one attitude about something, you
can digest it and you won't be overwhelmed. Yes. And Socrates said, know thyself. Just know yourself. Trust yourself a little more every day. Trust your hunches. Dr. Joyce Brothers says, trust your hunches. They're usually based on facts that were filed away just below the conscious level. Trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. And when you trust yourself, the world will trust you. Be there, be in the moment, be of service. One last quick story. Someone went on a journey to see the difference between heaven and hell. And when they got to hell, they saw this huge banquet. People with big, huge forks, and they had their forks were taking part of their arms. So they no longer had the arms, but they had these huge forks, all the food they could possibly eat, but they were all sitting next to each other looking like they were starving. And he couldn't figure it out. So then the tour guide took him up to heaven, and it looked almost the same thing. And they had the same forks as arms. They had all the beautiful food that you could possibly want, but everybody's laughing and looked healthy and looked well fed. And the tour guide the person turns to the tour guide and says, everything looked the same, but the people in hell looked like like they were starving and they were miserable, but the people in heaven looked like they were happy and taken care of. What's the difference? And he said, well, with those long fork arms, the people in hell were trying to feed themselves and they couldn't reach their mouths. In heaven, they were feeding each other.
That's great.
And that's where we'll end it. So feed your mind, help other people, be persistent, stick to it, don't give up, and you can be confident at anything. This has been Inside and Out with Patricia Stark. Make it a great day.